Hi, my name is Katherine Degner,
And my name is Hannah Freibert.
and we are here to discuss a comprehensive approach how to accurately assess poverty in America. What is poverty? In most circumstances, poverty is considered an economic deprivation in which a household cannot financially meet their basic needs. In this discussion, we are going to explain why this approach is faulty and does not accurately depict people's living conditions. Our definition comprises of individual drive as well as contextual opportunity, but we will delve deeper into this later on. While poverty is a complex phenomena, the government sets a poverty line using the official poverty measure, or OPM, which considers pre-tax income as a household's resources. If a household falls beneath this line, all members of the household are considered to be impoverished. All households above the line are not impoverished. This mysterious line is considered the threshold and was calculated in 1965 by figuring how much money was spent on an average food basket, which was then multiplied by 3 to factor in other costs. While this estimate is adjusted for inflation and family size, the basis of multiplying the amount of food by 3 is not applicable anymore because the average person today spends about a sixth of their income on food rather than a third. In addition, the cost of living varies with geographic location, which is not accounted for in the OPM. In an attempt to further understand the conditions of the impoverished, the Supplemental Poverty Measure, also referred to as SPM, was developed. The purpose of the SPM was to encompass the pieces missing from the OPM, including geographic variation, inclusion of in-kind benefits in household resources, deduction of non-discretionary expenses, various family situations, and the rising standard of living. While all of these facets are taken into consideration for the SPM is still a binary system and does not inquire into the depth of poverty, only that some people are in poverty and everyone else is not. It is also not utilized in policymaking. This lack of depth will be addressed in our proposed measure of poverty, which will be discussed in a few short minutes.
An additional form of measuring poverty via materialism was suggested by Robert Rector and Rachel Sheffield in 2011. By analyzing America's consumer habits, Rector displayed that America's poor owns more materialistic items than many Americans assume. While he introduces a valid point, he does not consider circumstances other than the owning of certain items. Some items mentioned include air conditioning, refrigerators, washing and drying machines, and a cordless phone. While many might not consider these kinds of appliances to be necessary, social constructs must be taken into consideration. For example, most employers require phones or technology of the like to accomplish tasks, which indicates that these items are required to hold a decent job. Thus, this quantitative measurement neglects many major facets of impoverished individuals and non-impoverished individuals alike, including actual income, the quality of the items, when the items were acquired, and if the items are even usable. Due to the many limitations of Rector's assessment, it is not a feasible approach to poverty.
Before we suggest an alternative measurement of poverty, we must propose our definition of poverty and explain to you why it's more comprehensive and humanizing than the common perception, which is essentially involving lack of economic means. A definition should never be confined by the means of measurement, which is preached by Amartya Sen, a world-renowned economist known especially for development economics. With this in mind, we believe that achievement of combined capabilities is essential for a quality life.
Poverty can be defined through the lens of capability because capabilities refer to the real opportunities for a person to be or do something. Amartya Sen, one of the central contributors to the capabilities approach, describes them as a person's ability to do valuable acts or reach valuable state of being. These capacities are composed of individual building blocks called functionings, the doings and beings of everyday actions. Capabilities are an adept means of viewing poverty because it does not seek out a numerical value of income to stamp people as poor. Instead, it looks to whether or not a person is living a dignified life, in other words, how they are actually doing. This approach is advantageous in that it looks not just to assess a broad population's wellness, but zooms in more on the individual. In her arguments on capabilities, Martha Nussbaum applies a more dignified technique for helping the poor by advocating the freedom of choice for each individual. It is the society's responsibility to provide these opportunities, what Sen refers to as substantial freedoms, and it is the individual's choice whether to partake. The overarching development is not the final functionings of an individual, it is whether that individual had the opportunity to realize their functionings of choice. Nussbaum created a list of required capabilities necessary for a dignified life. However, it is beyond the scope of our conversation for now, but we encourage you to refer to Nussbaum's work, Creating Capabilities, the Human Development Approach, and to ponder the advantages and disadvantages of having a list.
Building on this notion, the capabilities perspective classifies deprivation as stemming from the lack of internal capabilities or combined capabilities. Internal capabilities refer to the skills and dispositions we possess. These are encompassed by combined capabilities, which reference internal capabilities plus the political, social, economic conditions in which functioning can actually be chosen. For example, a single working parent could have the internal capability or inclination to vote, but might not have the time or transportation to access their designation polling place. Internal capabilities can exist without external opportunity, and vice versa. However, combined capabilities cannot exist without internal capabilities because the internal drive is necessary for the existence of combined capabilities. These concepts are a little difficult to wrap your head around, but it's important for you to understand that both internal capabilities and external opportunity are necessary for mobility and socioeconomic status and therefore escape from poverty.
Our goal is to include the inability to achieve combined capabilities into current means of measuring poverty. The SPM, while only serving as a tool for reference, does allow for capability measurement by accounting for non-discretionary expenses. Allotting for MOOP gives people access to necessary medical care, thus enabling them the combined capability of physical health. The SPM also accounts for things like childcare and transportation, both of which may link to maintaining a stable job and thus support the capability of making a living and controlling one's own environment. Measuring the SPM's nuanced and multidimensional method of gauging a household's stability, we believe it is strongly preferable compared to other means, such as absolute methods. Even so, the SPM as it currently exists does not account for all capabilities in its measurement, such as one's educational attainment or domestic safety, both of which may be directly correlated to impoverished conditions. To compensate for this fall in the SPM, we should also assess an Altered Human Development Index, or HDI, which casts light on the capabilities that the SPM skips over. By combining these two statistics, we get a more comprehensive view of the person's living conditions. The current index is calculated from 3 factors: lifespan, educational attainment, which is gauged from enrollment data and aptitude tests, and finally income. While the current HDI represents a national statistic with averages for the entire population, we suggest that it be regionalized. This depicts a better image of how the people in a particular area and a specific home are actually doing. To make the HDI a better test of combined capabilities and thus poverty, we also suggest that the third category, income, be substituted for regional crime rate. Spiked crime rate in an area has the potential to infringe upon combined capabilities for individuals, including several of the central capabilities Nussbaum endorses, like affiliations, bodily integrity, and emotions. Additionally, income is already factored into the SPM, so its substitution doesn't actually detract from the total measurement of capability-based poverty.
The merging of these two spheres creates a more holistic and accurate representation of a household situation than the current means of measurement. Though we acknowledge that this is inherently based on a household stability rather than a single person, as of now it remains the best approach to determine an individual's well-being due to the unavailability of individual estimates. To conclude our discussion of poverty definition and measurement, we must bear in mind that no form or approach is perfect. The current measurement of poverty in the U.S. is no longer adept at measuring the well-being of people. The OPM is overly simplistic in its calculations and has not been updated to modern demands. The flaws in this method are in part due to the inaccurate definition of poverty it stems from, because the common misperception of poverty and go-to governmental remedy is strongly income-based. This means of measurement leaves out many factors that also contribute to economic stability, but more importantly, the relative capacities of individuals. We must instead consider poverty from the perspective of achieving combined capabilities, or more specifically, the lack thereof. Combined capabilities focus on a person's actual opportunities to achieve an action or status. The blending and fine-tuning of the SPM and HDI allow judgment of people's combined capabilities as well as more simplistic standards like income. Rather than being dominated by pre-tax income, our proposed combination allows for an accurate representation of a household's resources, expenses, and capabilities, which presents the clearest image of those in poverty.